reigning as my own queen. I was switched at birth. My roommate Seraphina was the true heir to my family's millions. After Seraphina was restored to her rightful place, she had me thrown out of the home my adoptive parents had raised me in, stole my boyfriend, and led the charge to ostracize me at school. I didn't care about her taking those scraps from my life, because I was already worth over 100 million myself. I learned I had been swapped with another baby by a nurse 20 years ago. My roommate Seraphina Reed was the Reed family's biological daughter, the rightful inheritor of their vast fortune. My adoptive parents, who I had always known as Mr. and Mrs. Davies, were instantly consumed by guilt over the 2 decades they had lost with their real child. Eager to appease Seraphina, they immediately agreed to her demand and kicked me out of their house. As I stood on the doorstep, clutching a single suitcase, Seraphina watched me from the porch, a triumphant sneer twisting her lips. "Aurora Davies," she spat, using my former name. "I told you one day I'd take everything from you. Now go back to the miserable, poor life you came from." It wasn't until I got back to university that I fully understood the scope of everything. She and my boyfriend Brandon Thorne were suddenly inseparable, appearing everywhere together, publicly displaying an almost sickening level of affection. I walked into the bustling student cafeteria to see them oblivious to everyone else, feeding each other bits of food, laughing and whispering intimately. It was a nauseating display of sugary sweetness. Everyone in the room knew Brandon had been my boyfriend just days before. The moment I entered, every head turned, every eye fixed on me. For a terrible moment, I felt like I was glowing green under the harsh cafeteria lights. Swallowing the bitter lump of fury in my throat, I marched over to their table. "Brandon," I said, my voice tight, "don't you have anything you want to say to me?" He looked up, annoyance plain on his face, as if I were the inconvenience. "Aurora, I've been sick of your spoiled princess act for ages." He didn't even have the decency to look guilty. "I just never had the chance to tell you. The truth is, I've always been in love with Seraphina. I only dated you to get closer to her, to understand her better." I felt bile rise in my throat. Just weeks ago, he had badmouthed Seraphina behind her back, calling her a two-faced gold digger. Now it was Seraphina this, and Seraphina that, dripping with faux adoration. Seraphina, sitting beside him, batted her eyelashes and put on a saccharine sweet act. "Aurora dear," she simpered, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You know the heart wants what it wants. You can't force feelings." How quickly he forgot the times he'd shown me the flirty messages Seraphina sent him, messages where she subtly criticized me, calling me stuck-up, bossy, and looking down on her because I had money. He'd always vehemently defended me then, deleting the messages in front of me and swearing he loved me just as I was, that Seraphina was clearly a manipulative schemer, and he would never be interested in someone like her. Thinking back, I realized how naive I'd been. If he was truly uninterested, why delete the messages instead of blocking her number? It wasn't about protecting me, it was about preserving his act. Looking at them, I managed a cold, cutting smile. "Perfect match," I murmured, letting the unspoken phrase, "a bitch and a dog," forever tied hang in the air between us. Brandon had pursued me relentlessly for 2 years before I finally agreed to date him. He had presented himself as someone who loved me, not my wealth. In love, women are often blind, and I had actually believed him. Now it was clear. Sincerity meant nothing against the allure of millions. Seeing this man for who he truly was, and doing it before marriage, was a blessing in disguise. The anger I had felt moments ago began to dissipate, replaced by a surprising sense of relief. He was just trash. "I wish you both the very best," I said, my voice devoid of warmth. "May you be permanently stuck together." After class, I walked to the main gate. My biological parents were waiting for me. They looked a little lost among the sleek cars, dressed in simple, slightly worn clothes. When they saw me, their faces lit up, and they hurried towards me, beaming. As they reached me, they grew shy, hesitant, twisting their hands nervously. "Aurora, my dear," my birth mother said, her voice trembling slightly. "We are so sorry, but we don't have the means to give you the kind of life you're used to." "Yes," my birth father added, his eyes filled with regret. "It's all my fault, I haven't been capable enough." Their faces were etched with deep-seated guilt and concern. I looked at their hands, calloused and rough, clearly from years of hard work. A pang of sadness hit me. "Let's just go home first," I said softly. My birth father drove a small old QQ car. Before we could get in, Seraphina emerged from the school, heading towards a sleek Porsche 911 waiting for her. My biological parents waved a greeting, but Seraphina walked past as if she hadn't seen them, casting a disdainful glance at our humble car before haughtily climbing into her luxury vehicle. I saw the disappointment cloud my parents' faces. I teased gently. "Do you regret it already? Do you think I'm no good and wish you hadn't found me?" They immediately became flustered, rushing to reassure me. "Of course not. How could you think that?" They said they were worried that I, coming from a wealthy background, wouldn't be able to adjust to their simple life. We arrived at their home, a small aging bungalow. It looked old, slightly dilapidated, maybe even a little unsafe. "Dad, Mom," I said, looking around, "whenever you have some free time, please come with me to look at some houses." This place felt precarious. They deserved a safer, more comfortable home. My parents exchanged a hesitant glance, then nodded slowly. The day we went house hunting, we ended up at a large modern sales complex. To my surprise, I saw Seraphina and my adoptive parents there. Instinctively, I called out, "Mom, Dad." Mr. Davies frowned instantly, his face hardening. "Aurora," he said sternly, "don't call us Mom and Dad anymore. After all, we're not related by blood." "All right, Mr. and Mrs. Davies," I replied, my voice flat, accepting the dismissal. I turned to my birth parents. "Dad, Mom, let's look at some properties. See which one you like." Hearing me say I was buying property, Seraphina glided over, putting on an air of concerned advice. "Aurora, you're here too? You're buying a house? The properties here aren't cheap, you know. They're at least 40 or 50,000 a square meter. Going back to your family and immediately asking your aunt and uncle to buy you such an expensive place. You'll drain their life savings. I don't even think they have that much money." My parents' faces fell when they heard the price per square meter. They looked anxious, gripping my hands. "Honey," my birth father said nervously, "let's find somewhere a bit cheaper. Dad has saved some money over the years. You can have it all, but it might not be enough. We can take out a loan." "I'll work harder, my girl. I'm so sorry you have to make do." I squeezed his hand reassuringly. "It's okay." The words "I have money" died on my lips as Mr. Davies cut in, lecturing me. "Aurora, haven't we taught you not to be so vain? Don't rely on your family for everything. Why try to put on a show and pretend you can afford things you can't?" I nodded slowly, as if taking his words to heart, then asked sweetly, "And what are you and Seraphina doing here, Mr. Davies?" "It's Seraphina Reed now, Aurora, don't get it wrong," Seraphina interjected smoothly, smiling at my adoptive parents. Mr. and Mrs. Davies looked pleased by her correction. Mrs. Davies added, "Seraphina isn't like you, Aurora. She was taken away from us for so many years. She suffered so much hardship. What's wrong with buying her a house to compensate her?" Their money was theirs to spend, of course, and I had no right to object. But the blatant double standard stung, especially since I had no intention of using my parents' meager savings. I didn't want to waste any more breath on them. I turned and sought out a sales agent. Mr. Finch, the agent I approached, eyed our two groups. On one side stood the Davies, dripping in gold chains, watches, and designer clothes, exuding an air of nouveau riche swagger, practically shouting, "We're rich." On our side, my parents and I wore old t-shirts, faded jeans, and flip-flops. Coupled with the overheard conversation, Mr. Finch instantly dismissed me. He turned his back and plastered on a wide smile for Seraphina and the Davies. "Ah, you're also Reeds? We must be distant relatives. What kind of property are you interested in?" "I'd like to buy the most expensive unit in this entire complex," I stated clearly, looking past him at a younger agent. Mr. Finch scoffed, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Miss, are you aware the most expensive unit here costs 10 million? Are you sure you can afford that?" Seraphina laughed as if she'd heard the funniest joke. "Are you delusional? What makes you think you can afford a place that expensive?" Mr. Davies launched into another lecture. "Aurora, don't be so materialistic and competitive. Your vanity is out of control. You're not our daughter anymore. Even if your real parents sold all their organs, they couldn't afford this place." "Exactly," Mrs. Davies chimed in, shaking her head in mock dismay. "This child. Please don't tell anyone we raised you. It's clear. You're not our blood. So thoughtless. Seraphina is much more sensible. She only wants a small studio apartment, just about 3 million. My birth parents wanted to speak up, their faces flushing with hurt and shame, but they stumbled over their words, unable to defend me, only able to gaze at me with pained, apologetic eyes. I didn't need their defense. Mr. Finch's attitude meant I certainly wouldn't give him the commission. I looked around the sales office at the other agents. My eyes landed on a younger man, handsome and seemingly kind, whose name tag read, Jasper Shun. Jasper, I said, walking over to him. I'd like to buy that unit from you. I'll pay by card immediately. I pulled a bank card from my pocket and held it out to him. The moment I produced the card, everyone in the room froze. Then, recovering from their shock, the mocking resumed. Seraphina scoffed. Stop pretending. Where would you even get that kind of money? Mr. Davies chuckled darkly. Should I call the mental hospital? Perhaps you need a checkup. Mrs. Davies looked genuinely concerned, but not for my well-being. Are you having a breakdown, Aurora? Why are you making a scene? Mr. Finch, feeling smugly validated, added. Someone looking like that buying a $10 million property? And still trying to keep up the facade? When the card declines, you'll be the one embarrassed. My birth parents, heartbroken by the humiliation, hugged me tightly. My father pressed his own worn bank card into my hand. Honey, are we holding you back? He whispered. Dad will find a way. I'll sell everything if I have to. We'll get the money somehow. Dad, Mom, I said, taking their hands. You don't need to sell anything. Do you trust me? I really do have the money to buy this place. The house you're living in looks unsafe. I want to buy a better one for you. They hesitated, then nodded slowly, their trust in me evident despite their confusion. Still, they looked uneasy. We're almost 50, dear. It doesn't matter where we live. Maybe we should just go home. Mr. Finch saw their hesitation as my attempt to back down. Heh, he sneered. If you're not buying, leave. Stop putting on this touching family performance. I gave him a glacial look. He can take the card and swipe it, I said, handing it to Jasper. Then you'll see if the money is there. Why all the fuss? Jasper took the card from me, a small, pleasant smile on his face. He gave me a polite, almost deferential nod. Certainly, sister. I'll process this for you right away. The group, eager to witness my humiliation, followed us to the payment terminal. When the transaction went through, registering the $10 million purchase, their faces went blank with shock. Mr. Finch looked utterly devastated, realizing the massive commission he had just lost. Seraphina's eyes burned with jealousy, looking as if she wanted to incinerate me on the spot. My adoptive parents were speechless. Mr. Davies' expression shifted from arrogant disdain to dumbfounded surprise, then quickly morphed into a forced, cordial smile. Aurora, he began, his voice suddenly warm and familiar. Why didn't you tell Dad you had so much money? I gave him a polite, cool smile back. My name is Aurora Evans, Uncle, I corrected, using my birth family name. Leaving them stunned and silent, I guided my biological parents towards the contract signing area. My adoptive parents had always been self-serving. The moment they discovered I wasn't their biological child, they had cast me aside without hesitation. When I was younger and they were less affluent, they treated me poorly, often resorting to physical or verbal abuse because I was a girl and not a son. They only softened slightly after my adoptive mother lost the ability to have another child when I was 13, seemingly concerned I wouldn't care for them in their old age. But by then, the distance between us was permanent. We were never close. Perhaps I lacked Seraphina's silver tongue and knack for flattery to win their affection. I had genuinely intended to care for them in the future, after all they had done raising me. But their actions these past few days had frozen any warmth I might have felt. Even a pet dog would evoke some affection after so many years. I felt none from them. After buying the house, I decided to go back to the dorm to pack my things and spend a few nights there before moving in properly. The old house felt cold and unwelcoming. I rarely returned there. Now, I yearned to spend time with my biological parents. As I approached the dorm room door, I heard voices from inside. Oh my God, is it true? Aurora is so dirty, being kept by someone. She always put on that Ice Queen act. Turns out she'd even go for some ancient old guy behind our backs. Well, the old guy must be generous, spending so much money on her, buying such an expensive place. I saw it with my own eyes. Otherwise, she doesn't have her parents' money anymore. How could she afford such a high-end property? That last voice was Seraphina's. Hearing their words, a confusing mix of emotions churning within me, I pushed the door open. They all fell silent instantly, their eyes fixed on me, filled with blatant disdain and scorn. People's loyalty is a fragile thing. When you're on top, everyone fawns over you. The moment you fall, they trip over themselves to kick you. I walked in, calmly placed my suitcase down and sat on my bed, opening the university form on my phone. I saw several photos. They showed me with a balding, pot-bellied man. The angles were deliberately ambiguous, suggesting intimacy. The accompanying text read, "Pure university student lowers herself to become a mistress to maintain her luxurious lifestyle." The man was someone I had briefly encountered at the sales complex yesterday. He was actually a professor on a research project team I had been a part of. I had simply exchanged polite greetings with him. I held out my phone to Seraphina. "You took these, didn't you?" It had to be her. Only she would stoop this low to slander me, inventing this lie about me needing a sugar daddy to buy property. The money hadn't come from parents or benefactors. It was from selling the patent for a financial software project I had been the lead developer on. I had received a significant share of the 500 million patent sale. After tax, it was over 100 million. Seraphina met my gaze with wide, innocent eyes feigning ignorance. "Aurora," she murmured, her voice soft and regretful. "I didn't. But, secrets don't stay hidden forever." My other roommates, who had previously been eager to curry favor with me, instantly turned to defend Seraphina. Their words twisted the knife further, suggesting I had only myself to blame for such scandalous behavior being exposed. "Don't pull these pathetic stunts behind my back," I warned Seraphina, my voice low and dangerous. "And from now on, call me Aurora Evans. We are not friends." I knew this wouldn't be the end of it. It never was with someone like Seraphina. I also knew the professor was scheduled to join our university's faculty soon. Seraphina's stunt had consequences she hadn't foreseen. Perhaps I wouldn't even need to handle her myself. As I went downstairs with my suitcase, I ran into Brandon. Seeing me, he put on a face of theatrical sorrow and concern. "How could you sink so low, Aurora? Getting involved with that kind of old geezer? Are you okay? Please don't have any diseases. I hope you don't pass anything on to me." He was truly brain dead. How had I ever been so blind as to date this walking pile of garbage? I gave him a look of pure disgust. "You are not fit to touch me," I said coldly. Brandon and I had barely started dating before he left me. Things had never progressed beyond superficiality. His face darkened. "Don't be ungrateful. I'm trying to give you advice out of pity because we used to be together. Don't be so vulgar and pathetic." "A good dog doesn't block the path," I retorted, pulling my suitcase past him as if avoiding contamination. "Dating you was the biggest humiliation of my life." I was still trying to figure out why my ride was taking so long when a sleek Rolls-Royce Ghost pulled up smoothly right in front of me. I checked the ride-hailing app on my phone. Not my ride. And surely no one would use a $10 million luxury car as a taxi. So why was this Rolls-Royce blocking my path? The car window rolled down, revealing the young, handsome face of Jasperson from the sales office. "Sister," he said warmly, a playful glint in his eyes. "Get in." Behind me, the whispers started immediately. "Is that Aurora's sugar daddy sending someone to pick her up? Her family is supposed to be poor. How can she be here? This club has a membership system. You can't just walk in." "Oh wait, I forgot. She's got a sugar daddy now." I saw it with my own eyes. The very same voices that had fawned over me before now surrounded Seraphina, aiming their mockery at me. Since they didn't want me to leave, I turned back, giving them a chilling smile. "Do you know the penalty for slander?" Chelsea, one of the girls particularly close to Seraphina, dramatically feigned fear. "Oh, terrifying." Seraphina, putting on her best good girl act, addressed the group. "We're all classmates, don't say such things. Since we've run into each other, let's have dinner together. My treat." I couldn't help but laugh. She was the one spreading the rumors, and now she was pretending to be the gracious hostess? What a perfect, spotless white lotus. I was curious to see what game she was playing. At the dinner table after we ordered, everyone praised Seraphina's generosity. She accepted their compliments with false modesty, then turned to me. "Aurora," she began. I cut her off, my voice sharp. "It's Aurora Evans." She flinched slightly. "Aurora Evans, I saw you at the sales office the other day. That area is quite expensive. I just didn't want people to misunderstand, so I thought we could have dinner and give you a chance to explain." Her words were carefully veiled, but the implication was clear. Tell us about your sugar daddy. Only a shallow mind would jump to such conclusions about independent wealth. She prevented others from talking about it in the hallway, only to bring it up herself at the table. Was she afraid I would escape before she could confront me? Bored, I replied flatly. I earned it myself. Seraphina clearly didn't believe me. Her tone was laced with sarcasm. Oh? What kind of amazing opportunity lets a student like you get rich so fast? Care to share with your classmates? Chelsea snorted, adding her cruel jab. What other opportunity could there be? Doesn't it depend on selling yourself? But I guess not everyone can command such a high price, another voice added, and the table erupted in laughter. I calmly picked up a glass of water and threw it in Chelsea's face. Your mouth stinks, maybe you should wash it out, I said, my voice icy. And don't make veiled suggestions. You'll find out eventually. It wasn't the right time to reveal everything. Ah! Chelsea shrieked, shocked by my sudden action. She scrambled to her feet, her face contorted in rage, grabbing her own glass of water to throw at me. I stepped aside just in time. With too much force and poor balance, she stumbled forward, losing her footing. She landed in a heap at my feet, the glass shattering on the floor. Shards cut into her palm, drawing blood. I looked down at the pathetic sight of Chelsea lying there, a cold smile playing on my lips. No need for such a grand gesture just because you know you're wrong. I turned my gaze to the others at the table. We don't share the same values, you and I. Our paths diverge. I've lost my appetite. This food, I'm afraid I couldn't swallow it. Stepping out of the club, a cold wind whipped around me. It was late, and getting a taxi seemed difficult. As I waited, I saw someone who instantly grated on my nerves, Brandon. Moments later, Seraphina and her group emerged. Chelsea was still glaring at me, but she seemed to have injured her leg and wasn't moving well. Seraphina, it's chilly tonight. Here, wear this, Brandon said, gallantly placing his jacket over her shoulders. I looked away, my eyes burning. The thought of him having once been so attentive to me sent a shiver of disgust down my spine. He was truly a repulsive man, clearly working hard to secure his place as a rich family's son-in-law. Seraphina, with an air of magnanimous pity, asked me, Aurora? Our car should be here soon. Do you need a ride? It's hard to find a taxi at this hour. I was genuinely surprised by her audacity. Had she completely forgotten the venomous exchange just moments ago in the private room? Was she a walking garbage bag capable of putting on such a performance in public? We had gone beyond merely losing face. There was no pretending anymore. I had no desire to play along. No thank you, I said flatly. Are you completely shameless? Can't you see I don't want to talk to you? Brandon, like a loyal dog guarding his master, immediately barked at me. Don't be so ungrateful. Seraphina is offering out of the goodness of her heart. You would never be so considerate of others. I truly couldn't be bothered with these two imbeciles any longer. Just as I was wondering despairingly why my ride hadn't arrived, a gleaming Rolls-Royce pulled up directly in front of me. I glanced at my ride-hailing app again, double-checking. No match. And surely no one would use a Rolls-Royce as a common taxi. So why was this luxury car blocking my way? The window rolled down. It was Jasper Shun, the young, handsome face from the sales office. Sister, he called out warmly, get in. Behind me, the whispers ignited again. Is that Aurora's sugar daddy? Sending a driver. That's Aurora's suitor? He's even hotter than Brandon. And driving that car. He must be loaded. That Rolls-Royce looks like a limited edition. Probably costs 10 million. Forget the car. Look at the watch he's wearing. That's a Patek Philippe special auction piece. Easily worth tens of millions. So, the campus form was complete nonsense then? With a rich, hot suitor like this, why would she need to find some old geezer? What could Aurora possibly want from him? His wrinkles? His beer belly? His smell? Clearly, you can't believe campus gossip. Their sudden shift in opinion made Brandon and Seraphina's faces turn a sickly shade of green. Seraphina stared at Jasper, recognition dawning in her eyes, mixed with a flicker of suspicion. Her expression hardened, and she spoke with obvious contempt. Isn't that the young man from the sales office the other day? I saw him there myself. Aurora, you really shouldn't go to such lengths just to save face. Hiring someone to pretend, and renting that outfit. It must cost a fortune for a day. Jasper ignored her initial jab, his composure unshaken. He turned to me, his expression softening. "Let's get in, sister," he said gently. "It's windy out here." Once I was comfortably seated in the car, he turned back to Seraphina, his brow raised in a cool, cutting gesture. "Funny," he said, his voice smooth and confident. "Miss Reed came to my family's property complex the other day, talking about buying a house, and ended up not buying anything. And now she's questioning if my car is rented." Hearing him casually refer to the complex as my family's, and seeing his complete lack of anxiety, I started to suspect. I leaned in and whispered to him, "You're laying the rich act on a bit thick, aren't you?" He smiled a genuine mischievous grin. "Sister," he whispered back, "what's my last name again? And what was the name of the property complex you bought from that day?" "Hey, Shun Serenity Heights?" The casual ease of his expensive attire suddenly made sense. He wasn't renting. This was just how he dressed. Good grief. He was a princeling slumming it as a ground-level employee. When it came to putting on an act, he had definitely won. Brandon, seeing me lean in and whisper to Jasper, looked absolutely livid. People were truly predictable. If I had ended up with someone like the professor, he would have ridiculed and disdained me. Since I had seemingly attracted someone like Jasper, who was better than him in every way, he was consumed by resentment. Seraphina, exposed so publicly by Jasper, was visibly furious. Her carefully crafted image of fragile sweetness cracked, and she gritted her teeth. "You say it's your family's, but how do you prove it?" she challenged. "Heh," Jasper scoffed lightly. "Actually, whether you believe me or not doesn't really matter. But because I had the pleasure of sister getting into my car today, I'm in a good mood. Check the finance magazines tomorrow. You'll see if I was telling the truth." With that, Jasper stepped on the accelerator and sped away, leaving them gaping on the sidewalk. He turned down a small side road and after driving for only a minute or two, he pulled over and stopped. Jasper leaned back in the driver's seat, looking relaxed and casual. "Get out," he said. "Alright, so he did have two faces. Why did you help me back there?" I asked, a little confused. I'd thought maybe he was genuinely interested in me, but his current attitude suggested otherwise. "You helped me out the other day by buying that apartment," he explained easily. "My dad had cut off my allowance and made a bet with me. If I could sell that unit within 2 months, he'd lift the restrictions. Didn't expect to run into a little rich girl like you so soon. Thanks to you, I'm free. When I saw you getting harassed back there, I felt like I owed you. Helping you out was just repaying a favor, nothing more." The next day, thanks to Jasper's dramatic reveal, the campus rumors about me being kept by an old man significantly decreased. The finance magazine featured a high-definition photo of him, detailing his feat of selling a $10 million property in just 2 days, praising him as a true real estate magnate's son. This effectively shut down a lot of the gossip. After all, who would choose a balding, aging professor when they could have a rich and handsome man like Jasper? However, some people still grumbled, saying I'd simply landed a wealthy catch and was just pretending to be independent, claiming I earned it myself. How could a sophomore student possibly make that much money? They would find out soon enough, at the upcoming school anniversary celebration. As for Jasper, I thought about his easy smile, his casual wealth. If I had taken credit for catching him, it wouldn't have been so bad. But he clearly had no romantic interest, and after experiencing a scumbag like Brandon, I wanted to stay far away from relationships for a while. I hoped things might settle down for a bit, but the drama wasn't over. Soon after, Professor Eldridge arrived at the university to teach. As we had worked together on the research project, the team members organized a dinner to welcome him. That very evening, photos of me and the professor having dinner were posted on the university forum again. This time, the photos were expertly edited, cropping out all the other team members, leaving only me and the professor. Coupled with my excellent grades in his subject, the narrative shifted. The girl who supposedly slept with an old man for money was now sleeping with the professor for academic favors. It was beyond ridiculous. Like absurd opening the door for absurd, inviting it right into the house. Spreading rumors takes a single mouth. Dispelling them takes exhausting effort. But I didn't want this to be easily brushed under the rug. The bigger the scandal became, the harder it would be for the school to quietly bury it. The person posting these photos would face harsher consequences. My first step was to call the professor's wife, Mrs. Eldridge, and explain the situation. Mrs. Eldridge often joined her husband for team dinners and was familiar with all of us. I explained the entire sequence of events and she immediately believed my innocence. She knew my capabilities. I had no need to resort to such desperate measures for academic credit. Knowing her decisive personality, I anticipated things were about to get much more interesting. Soon new photos appeared on the forum, this time even more brazen. They were graphic, intimate photos supposedly of me and the professor. Looking at them, I felt a mixture of anger and grim amusement. Angry at the sheer vulgarity and malice of the images, and amused by the sheer stupidity of the person behind it. Doing this multiple times, they surely didn't realize how many digital footprints they were leaving, making it easy to trace them. I knew evidence would surface soon. I was waiting for the scandal to become so widespread that the university couldn't easily silence it. The person behind these malicious posts would face severe consequences. Did you hear? The professor and his wife just arrived at school. They look furious. When a classmate brought this news to the classroom, everyone turned to look at me, their faces alight with anticipation, hoping to see the mistress publicly humiliated by the wife. Seraphina practically glowed with schadenfreude. "Aurora," she said, her voice falsely sweet, "you'd better be polite when they come. I hear some middle-aged women have very strong hands. Your delicate skin might not be able to handle it." "Who has strong hands, you little girl? Maybe I should give you a taste." Mrs. Eldridge's booming voice echoed from the back of the classroom. Seraphina instantly froze, speechless, intimidated by Mrs. Eldridge's imposing presence and fierce expression. Mrs. Eldridge strode over and took my hand. "Aurora dear," she said, her voice softening considerably, "you haven't been too upset, have you?" Her public display of affection towards me completely bewildered everyone who had expected a dramatic confrontation between the wife and the other woman. This wasn't the scene they had come to watch. "No, I'm all right, Mrs. Eldridge," I said, shaking my head. "Why did you come to school?" "I was worried about you being wronged," she stated firmly. "My old man is thick-skinned, this won't bother him much, but I need to speak to your principal." "I'll go inform him," I offered. When the principal arrived, Mrs. Eldridge launched into a blistering tirade, giving him no chance to speak. "My husband has always been a man of integrity, and this happens the moment he arrives at your school. That dinner photo? I was there, and it's being twisted into something so disgusting. The moral standards of your university need a serious overhaul. And look at these latest photos. These are clearly fake. My husband has a red mole on his backside. That's not him in those pictures. This whole thing has left me feeling anxious, agitated, and utterly disgusted. If you don't give me a satisfactory explanation, my husband might be easygoing, but I am not." That day, the story of the professor's red mole went viral on campus, leading to his utter public mortification. Seizing the moment, I also pressured the school administration. I demanded a thorough investigation to clear my name. I needed justice. I had waited for the scandal to escalate precisely for this reason. Now the school couldn't simply sweep it under the rug, and I could definitively prove my innocence. Using my technical skills, I provided undeniable evidence that the photos were photoshopped, posting the analysis on the forum. Several prominent figures from the research field, using anonymous accounts, confirmed my analysis was correct. Armed with the permissions granted by the university, I traced the IP address of the photo uploader through the campus network. The culprit turned out to be Chelsea. The university swiftly issued a notice of expulsion for her. The day she was expelled, Chelsea came looking for me at the school gate. "I only posted the photo from the dinner," she confessed, her eyes red-rimmed. "I happened to be at the same place. I was mad that you embarrassed me like that. But the later pictures, the intimate ones, they weren't me." At this point, with nothing left to lose, Chelsea had no reason to lie. I looked at her pointedly. "But the IP address came from your phone. Perhaps you should think hard about who else might have used your device. It didn't take a genius to figure out who that was." Seraphina. I still didn't quite understand. Why was Seraphina so determined to constantly sabotage me? If her issue was my family's wealth before, now that she had it all, why was she still desperate to gain a sense of superiority over me? Chelsea wasn't completely dim. Her eyes widened in sudden realization and she bit out, "It was Seraphina. It had to be her," before storming away. The university's anniversary celebration arrived. Students were encouraged to invite their parents. Mr. and Mrs. Davies had been significant donors over the years, always occupying prime seats in the front row of the parents' section. Seraphina, dressed in a Chanel outfit and carrying a coach bag, sat beside them. This time, I sat towards the back with my biological parents, Mr. and Mrs. Evans. The celebration featured speeches from successful alumni who had made significant contributions. Among them were my colleagues from the research project. During their speeches, they highlighted my contribution prominently. This project would not have been successful without Aurora Evans, one of them stated. That's right, another added. We were stuck on a particular piece of code, unable to complete the correct calculation formula. It was Aurora who had the breakthrough, allowing us to succeed. The patent we sold earned $500 million. All the credit goes to Aurora. The principal immediately invited me to the stage to say a few words. I walked towards the podium, all eyes on me. The classmates who had scoffed at me, believing I relied on men for money, or that I had slept with the professor for grades. Their faces were now a study in shame. Mr. and Mrs. Davies, seeing me on stage, shot Seraphina a look of bitter disappointment, as if to say, "Why couldn't you be like that?" I reached the stage and took the microphone. This project's success was certainly a result of the collective effort of my senior colleagues and the team. I simply contributed my part. My voice was steady, calm. I will be donating $5 million of the patent earnings to the university to express my gratitude for their nurturing environment. A ripple of shock went through the audience. Finally, I concluded, looking out at the sea of faces, I want to say that relying on your own hard work and striving for self-improvement offers infinite possibilities. Sometimes constant comparison is unproductive, and judging others with malicious assumptions only reveals the narrowness of your own mind. After my speech, many students applauded. Those who had doubted me, accusing me of relying on men, of being a gold digger. They lowered their heads, unable to meet my gaze. The principal was beaming. He praised me effusively, then turned to my biological parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Evans," he said warmly, "you have truly raised an exceptional daughter. The university is proud to have such a talented, capable, and grateful student." He immediately invited them to move to the front row, giving them the best view of the rest of the ceremony. Sitting in the front row already, Mr. and Mrs. Davies' faces turned ashen. This public honor, this pride. It could have been theirs. The university anniversary video presentation began. Barely 2 seconds in, the screen suddenly switched to a series of explosive, intimate photos and even videos. High definition, no pixelation. The men changed, but the woman's face was Seraphina's. "Turn it off. Turn it off. That's not me," Seraphina screamed, leaping up in panic, rushing towards the projection booth like a madwoman. But Chelsea blocked her path. "I helped you with everything, and you treated me like your dog, even using my phone for your dirty tricks." Chelsea yelled back, her face twisted with rage. "Why should I be expelled while you get away with everything? You act like a pure angel, but you're the dirtiest one behind closed doors." The two women, fueled by anger and humiliation, devolved into a chaotic brawl on the floor, clawing and tearing at each other. Mr. and Mrs. Davies, utterly mortified by Seraphina's public breakdown and the scandalous videos, seized the moment of chaos to quickly stand up and flee the auditorium, their faces ashen. One of the men in Seraphina's videos was revealed to be a teacher from our university, teaching another subject. It became clear that she was the one who had slept with teachers to pass her classes. Seraphina was expelled from the university for moral misconduct. The day Seraphina was officially expelled, I ran into her at the school gate. Her eyes burned with a hatred so intense it felt like it could consume me. "Aurora Evans," she hissed, "you must be very pleased with yourself now, aren't you?" Even now, she believed I was the architect of her downfall. I truly couldn't understand where this deep-seated hatred came from. "Everything that happened is your own doing," I replied calmly. "No one else is to blame. Why do you hate me so much?" The hatred in her eyes softened slightly, replaced by tears welling up. "It's all you," she choked out, her voice thick with emotion. "If it wasn't for wanting to step all over you, I wouldn't have done any of this. The first day of school I wore a Chanel bag, and everyone admired me. But then you arrived carrying the same Chanel bag. And they started comparing. They saw mine was fake and they started talking about me behind my back. It's all you. If you hadn't carried a matching bag, they wouldn't have mocked me. How hard I worked to make friends with them. And you, even when you pretended to be so aloof, they still gravitated towards you. She was talking about something I barely even remembered. She grew more and more upset, crying as she spoke. Your grades were good too. Why were you good at everything? Why could you have everything and I had nothing? Until I found out I was switched. That I lived a poor life because of the mistake. I was supposed to be the rich young lady. It's your fault. And even after you were kicked out, you still acted so superior. I hated you even more. I just wanted to see you miserable. After listening to her pathetic confession, I shook my head slowly. Being poor in possessions isn't scary, I said quietly. Being poor in spirit. That's truly terrifying. Mr. and Mrs. Davies arrived to pick up Seraphina in their car. As they pulled up, Mrs. Davies' voice, sharp and cold, immediately began tearing into her. You jinx. It's all your fault. Ever since you came back, our business has taken a hit. If you hadn't demanded so many designer luxuries, we wouldn't have had cash flow problems. If we go bankrupt, I'll skin you alive. Mr. Davies was just as volatile. You're nothing but bad luck. How could we have produced a daughter like you? We should never have acknowledged you. Look at Aurora. How successful she is, how much pride she brought her parents. Seraphina cowered under their verbal assault, not even daring to cry out loud. I had heard enough. Their renewed focus on Seraphina was a mirror of their past, now amplified by greed and disappointment. I turned and walked away. Ultimately, a person must rely on themselves. Parental wealth might provide a higher starting platform, but true capability and self-reliance offer infinite possibilities. As for Brandon, the school heartthrob who had been thoroughly humiliated by the numerous green hats Seraphina had placed on his head, he had taken extended leave, too ashamed to show his face at school. Not until the new semester began, presumably believing the scandal had faded, did he dare to reappear. He had the audacity to show up before me with a bouquet of flowers. He confessed, with a sickening display of repentance, that he had been blinded by greed, bewitched, to think Seraphina was better. He had always loved only me. His shamelessness was astounding. He was willing to sacrifice any shred of dignity for money. If I were to take him back, I would truly be the one who was blind. I swept the flowers aside with a disgusted gesture. Brandon, I said, my voice cutting, with a face thicker than a city wall, maybe you could find an older rich woman. If you're looking for an easy life, you might have a chance. But don't even think about me. I find you repulsive. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there with his wilting bouquet. I would be my own queen. Scumbags would only hinder my progress. After everything I had experienced, my life stretched out before me, vast and full of boundless potential. The inn.